think I got rid of the weird, 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 think I got rid of the weird. Hello, hello. All right. It's strange how you start the cameras and stuff on your computer, and then it wants to pick up every device. Testing, testing. Alright, so we got sound. Alright, you guys still hear feedback? Yeah. It's weird. Once my daughter gets back home, she'll help me get everything like the shop and stuff set up. So I'm trying to get the video and mic set up. But right now what I'm spinning is some alpaca from an alpaca named Bruce Wayne. And this fiber, his blanket, was processed at the Ecoview Fiber Mill that used to be in North Carolina. And it's a very, very enjoyable spin. This was his second fleece, his second blanket, rather. And I don't know if you can see the color well. But it's a dark gray with some light gray in it. I'm not gonna hold you guys long. It's like every setup that I use, Whatnot keeps putting other devices on OBX. Because I had it set up to use the document camera and the microphone on the document camera. But it keeps this choosing the webcam and the webcam's mic. So even when the webcam isn't plugged up, it's detecting the webcam. So I'm not trying to restart my machine every time I want to use Whatnot. So I just have to play around with OBX to try to figure out what to disable. But at least we got rid of the feedback. So let me see if I can get the second camera to work. So has this little picture of me up there. There we go. And let's see what happens. Ah, but it's not on now. Webcam. There we go. Alright, so now that camera's working. Yay! Hi, so now y'all can see me too. It's a little chilly here in Virginia tonight. To me, anyway. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome aboard. Thank you for stopping by. I think there's about a 10 to 15-second delay over on YouTube. Everything is glitchy today. This was picking up feedback from off my freaking heater. I had to turn my heater off. The webcam setting, it wasn't picking up. The forward facing webcam, so I had to turn that off, unhook it, and plug it in a couple of times. This is one of those days. Nope. You got a project you're working on right now, Suze? Beanie hats for craft shows. Which pattern are you using? Which patterns are you using? Let me put whatnot on the laptop so I can read the chat easier. I just had cataract surgery, and I've had it in both eyes. First eye in November and the second eye in October. So there you go. That way I can see, I can read the chat without straining my eyes. Yes, oh my God, that's exactly right. That's an awesome way to describe it. Cause I keep telling people it was like, you know, like looking through a glass of tea with cooking oil in the tea. That's what it was like, and you couldn't focus. It was, everything was just blurred and just getting more and darker and more obscure. But yes, when, like, as soon as they did the surgery on the left eye, and you realize how much color, definition, everything is missing from your life that you haven't been seeing for so long. I mean, and like your family, your grandchildren, all that you haven't even seen, the people you love, you know, because of the cataracts. Hello, happy, joy. Yes. I tell, since I've been back at work, I've been telling everybody, if you ever start seeing this, you need to go to the eye doctor and get your eyes checked. Because it's not normal. And it's not your diabetes if you're diabetic. More than likely, you're developing cataracts. I do not have any fiber animals. All of my fiber, majority of the alpaca that I have and the fleeces that I have was given to me by my friend who used to have a fiber mill. The other fiber I have, I purchased at fiber festivals like Maryland Sheep and Wool and New York Sheep and Wool. Sometimes we'll find local people getting rid of fleeces and stuff. I wish I had some fiber animals. But I live in the city limits, so that ain't gonna happen. And I have 2 cats that are hunters, so I would not want to put a rabbit through that kind of stress by getting an adorable bunny. So we just have to do it now. I have enough fiber to last me to the end of time. So I also purchased raw fleece and fiber and wool from Homestead Wool and Gift Farm. Or Sanctuary Wool is their other name. one of the favorite vendors I get fiber from when I go to Maryland Sheep and Wool is Walks Far Acres Farm. They're East Coast source for Navajo churro sheep wool. And they have some other breeds that they have, and some cross breeds as well. They have some Churro X's and some Cordell X's and stuff. I knit and I crochet. I know the basics of weaving, but I don't like weaving, so I don't like doing anything that causes me stress. And so if I don't like doing it, I don't do it. Just like I mostly spin sock weight yarn and lace weight yarn. And that's what I spin. That's what makes me happy. That's what's comfortable. So when people ask me, hey, can you spin me some bulky yarn, or can you spin me some chunky yarn? I'm like, no. Because I would have to actually concentrate on spinning thicker, and I'm not trying to get a headache for nobody. So I tell them I can teach you how to spin. You can spin your own chunky yarn. No, this is the Spinolution Queen Bee. This is made by the Spinolution Company out of California. They have several wheels as well as an electric wheel. And I also have a Marjacraft. What is she called? I don't use it that much. I traded her for the loom I had. Rose, Marjacraft Rose. Because I have degenerative arthritis in both my knees, and this wheel was designed for people who have hip, knee, and ankle problems. So I'm basically spinning with my toes. In the Marjacraft is it's a double treadle, but it's a traditional stair step motion, which is harder on your knees. So I don't use it that often. These are big merchandisers. Just use automatically generated machine. You mean like at craft shows and stuff? A lot of them, the smaller sellers use mini mills. They have their fibers spun up at mini mills. Like Windswept Farms. I will have to go downstairs. I don't think I have any of their yarn upstairs. I took all of my nice yarn. It's in a glass cabinet case downstairs. Yeah, so I don't have. I'm have to. I need to write that down to bring some upstairs to show samples. Like when people like you ask me questions, I can have samples to show you. But most of like the big box stores, or like the big yarn stores, like the what do you call them? I can't even think right now. Let me see. Local yarn stores. A lot of that fiber, yes, is made at big mills, at big commercial mills, and then they purchase it. Or you have like dye houses that are like, you know, small warehouses where they dye fiber and yarn, and then it's sold to the yarn stores and stuff. Or you have indie dyers who dye pre-spun yarn and stuff, and they sell it to the local yarn stores and at fiber festivals and stuff. You rarely see like hand spun yarn being sold on a commercial type of venue, other than like if it's like on consignment, like somebody like me that spins yarn. Nah, that stuff that you be seeing at Hobby Lobby and stuff is not hand spun yarn. That's they call it hand spun, but it's not hand spun. It's that homespun yarn is not hand spun yarn. That stuff looks like old carpet from the 70s. They just call it that because they want to say it gets because it's been spun on a mill, on a machine. The advantage to homespun yarn is my yarn is made with my hands, and I know the quality of my yarn. I know if there is any knots, whether or not there's 2 or 3 knots in it. I know that I know where the fleece came from, how that fleece was cleaned and prepared before I brought it back into my house and spin it. It was not sent to a big mill that uses harsh chemicals to get every little bit of grass out of it, and then that chemical is ruining the environment. This fleece here, it was soaked in it's like a big washing machine, but it doesn't have like an agitator in it. It has, like the one at my friend's fiber mill, it has like a screen that was it would click, it would slowly move the fiber so you don't agitate it, and it would and you're more you're soaking it, and it's using a soap that is not harsh to the environment or the animals or to the fleece or the blanket that is cleaning. You're basically letting it dissolve the lanolin out if it's wool. And if it's not wool that's being washed, then they would use something that's even a little bit more delicate and to get the dirt out. The dirt is basically sinking. And then you lift that fiber up, leaving the dirt and grit. You move it over to another wash tub, or you drain it. Depends on how you're set up. And you drain that dirty water out, and then you put more hot water in there, and you do a second soaking of the fiber, however many you need to get all that dirt, and if it's sheep's wool, get all as much lanolin as possible out of that wool without agitating the fiber. And then you put it over to be rinsed. You don't want it to felt, so you want the temperature of the water to be the same as what the temperature of the fleece is when you put it in that water. And then you rinse as much as the soap and any leftover dirt or whatever out. And then you place it on drying racks to dry. After it's dried, they would take it and they would put it through the picker, which basically pulls all the locks and stuff apart into these big piles of fluff. And they had a machine that actually blew the fiber up into this room. This room is like a closet. And it would blow it around, and it would stick to the walls. And then they would take this rake and rake it down and put it in these big cans. And from there, they would take it over to this drum carter, this huge carter machine. And the machine would take all that loose fiber and organize it into what's called a sliver. those fibers will go into a separate can. I prefer to spin fibers off the machine then. But if you want it to be even more organized, then they would take it to what's called a pen drafter, and the pen drafter further aligns those fibers. And then the pen drafter is what's used to create what's called top, which is the thick braids of fiber that you see commercial sellers selling. Yep, we dye as well. My husband and I will have dye days where we'll have fun. Only have a couple that I've dyed left because I've spun most of it up. But this is one of the ones I've been saving, and this is the one I call berries because the colors like it's blues and purples and mauves. And it just made me think of like when you're picking blueberries or blackberries and you get the juice on your fingers and clothes, and that's what it made me think of. I don't know if I can get this. I'm not sure where this angle for this camera is. There we go. So most of the fiber that we dyed, I've spun up. I'll show you some of it. Yeah, I only have maybe 5 or 6 things of dyed fiber left. Like I have some of this robin eggs blue. And then I have like this one, it's like Easter, but it's with acid dyes, but it's like, Easter colors. I was trying to do Easter colors, the Easter pastels in that one. And there's another robin's egg blue. But that's pretty much all that I have left of fiber that I've dyed. Most of the fiber I spin is the natural colors, but I do purchase commercial fiber from time to time and spin it. Let's see if I have bags of fiber, like bags of handspun. So, let me see if I can find you some to show you. Rinse dye is a multi-purpose dye. It has dye molecules that are designed for all fiber types, from wool to acrylics to hair type fibers, cloths, plastics, leather. That's why when you use a rinse dye, you still have all that color left in whatever the container. Because if you're dyeing cotton, then only that dye that's made to adhere to cotton is going to stick to the cotton. So if you know you're dyeing cotton, you'll be better off purchasing a dye that's specifically formulated for cotton, so you're not wasting a lot of color. Kool-Aid is a stain. It's more of a stain than it is a dye. It's mostly staining the exterior of the fiber, versus like an acid dye that needs a mordant or like vinegar or citric acid to open up those scales so that dye soaks down into the actual hair shaft. So this fiber was from Spinning Moon Farms, and it is 7% Romney and 30% mohair. And this it was 8 ounces of fiber, and it was produced in Michigan. And I'm pretty sure I bought this at the last New York Sheep and Wool I went to, which was the one right before COVID. And so they had this, and they were selling it in kits to make pumpkins with. It's like a fall colorway, and they were actually selling it to make pumpkin kits. And I bought some to spin. Like you can see the halo. I don't know if you can see the halo from the mohair. This one is I call it remnant skeins. It's different fibers that I was spinning on a drop spinner. When I'm walking around at a fiber festival, sometimes you can pick up like little samples of fiber to spin, and I'll make that into a sample. This is some finished humbug that I spun into a 3-ply, and if I remember right, this was from I got this from Maryland, the fiber from Maryland Sheep and Wool a couple years ago. So here's some commercial, this is actually acrylic. This was Michaels had, that roving yarn they sell sometimes. So this is that roving yarn that they sell at Michaels and Hobby Lobby and places. And I took it and took the string out of it and I spun it. And it's a lot of nice fall colors. So that's another option if you want to spin some, let's say you have a friend that doesn't want wool or something. Then you can, like this is another one that was from an acrylic. This one right here is an acrylic that I spun. And this was also from some Hobby Lobby fiber. This is one of the most even spins that I've done. This acrylic right here. And like once I spin some like that, I'll get tired because those things come in these big 11 ounce, 12 ounce braids. And I don't want to spin it all. So I'll take and I'll This is some from Sanctuary Wool. This is some Rambouillet, and I think it's a 2-ply. I rarely do 2-plies, but I did this one in a 2-ply, and it's gonna get dyed. We're gonna dye that one, but so I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like 7 bags of hand spun yarn. And so that's when my daughter was like, well, you can go on Whatnot and you can spin, and then there might be somebody interested in some of that yarn you be spinning. Because I'm more of a process spinner than I am it's the act of spinning that I really enjoy versus just using it. I mean, most of the time if I'm crocheting or knitting something, it's usually with a commercial yarn that I have. I'm trying to use up as much of my stash as possible so that I can actually not feel guilty, for having all that commercial yarn in the house that I bought. No, I'm not trying to make a living doing this. I'm just trying to have a easy to use venue that I can offload as much of it as possible to people who enjoy hand spun yarn or want to try hand spun yarn. It'll be at an affordable price. Because let me show you. I can show you some of the stuff that you can make with it. I mean, anything that you can make with a commercial yarn, you can make with hand spun yarn. So we have this little baby cardigan that's made from my hand spun. This light beige is alpaca, and my husband and I dyed the wool. This was just some what's the name of that place I used to get? Sometimes I would get like mill ends from, this was when I first started spinning. And the mill ends were from, let's see. It was so long ago. But like, this is a shawl that was made from hand spun, from a skein of small bits and bobs like dye hoppers and stuff. Like if you have some dye left over in the pot, you could just put some bits and pieces in there to soak up that dye, and then you can spin it into a skein of yarn and then make a little shawl or something from it. And you can also make little amigurumis and stuff from it. So you can make like a little monster. You don't have to spend a lot to be able to make stuff from it. So here's the little monster. And this is just little bits and pieces that were left over from this other stuff. And so this is another little cardigan. And it patterned itself. Just, you know, that's the fun thing with hand spun, is depending on how you ply it, and what pattern you uses, it pattern itself. And so they can try and duplicate that look with commercial yarns, but it's not going to be the same as actual hand spun yarn and hand dyed yarn. It's unique. Actually, I have a friend named Sarah Hefworth over in the UK, and I sent her a whole bunch of my hand spun, and she knit all those little things for me. Because she's a real fast knitter. I'm not a fast knitter, but I'm a fast crocheter, and so I'm going to be crocheting some stuff with my hand spun. So these are like shop samples. So like when I put yarn in the local yarn shop, I'll take some of this stuff for her to have some shop samples so that people can see that anything you can make with commercial yarn, you can make with hand spun yarn. The only thing about the hand spun is it's not going to have the gauge on the yarn. You're going to have to do gauge swatches and stuff like that. Let me see. And I had a shawl that I made with my hand spun that I gave to my friend at Wildfire Acres Farms, and I have another shawl that I did with my hand spun. I had put it up for the summer and I have to find it. So if you give me a sec, I'll find it. So this is Lala Simple Shawl. And this is what I call a remnant skein, where I take little bits and pieces that's left over from spinning. Like I got over 20 bobbins. So sometimes when you ply, it doesn't, you don't use all the yarn on the bobbin, so you have a little bit left over. So I'll keep a bobbin like that, and every time I have a little bit left, I'll just wind the yarn up there, and then I'll apply all that yarn into its own skein, and I call them remnant skeins. And they're great for making hats and for making colorful shawls. So this shawl is this dark piece up here at the top. If you're looking at the camera with me, this is alpaca. This is Rambouillet. This was some gray merino from Louet. Like I got some samples from Louet, and so several of these grays are from samples. This is some that my husband and I dyed. This was like a little piece. That blue is like a little piece that I got. It was merino that I got as a sample from like Maryland Sheep and Wool. That I was walking around spinning. This lady just pulled a piece off and handed it to me and said, "Enjoy." This silver part here is another little part from Louet. This is bamboo. Some more alpaca. This is a cinnamon brown alpaca. This was like a rose gray alpaca. Some more that my husband and I dyed. Just wool. I don't remember what breed it was. But my favorite wool to spin, top down, hands down, is Rambouillet. Rambouillet is my absolute favorite wool to spin. And then there's some black and gold that we were trying to dye, some black and gold. And just little bits and pieces left over. But like I said, this is hand spun yarn. This isn't commercial yarn. And you could do, it's just so pretty. And I just knowing that I spun this with my own hands, that the majority of it me and my husband dyed. And what wasn't dyed, we used the natural color of the animal's fiber to bring out your yarn. Rambouillet is a sheep. It is a Spanish, it's a Spanish and French sheep. From one of the marriages, the Spanish were very protective over their merino sheep, the Spanish merinos. They did not let them out of their country. But one of their princesses was marrying a French prince. And now the French had their own breed of sheep that had a good quality wool, but it was nothing like Spanish merino. So this princess came with several of the merino sheep to live with the royalty over there in France. And they took that opportunity to improve their wools with the Spanish merinos. And then you end up with Rambouillet. And the Rambouillet fiber was also so nice that it was also kept. I think the first Rambouillet was allowed out of France in the 70s, I believe. They were very protective of their wool. And I can understand why. So this is another thing you could do with hand spun. Let's say you have some commercial yarn that you want to use to make a shawl or something, but you want to do something a little special. What I did was I took a little bit of hand spun that I had that wasn't enough to really do, a garment with, but I use it as a border for a shawl. So that's what this is. I took and I trimmed this shawl with the hand spun. I crocheted a shell border on with the hand spun. So that's something else you can do with your hand spun. You don't have to use your hand spun for an entire project. You can spin enough for a part of a project, like a border, or let's say if you're one of those fancy knitters. This is a K from the Bakery Bears. This was her pattern. I can't remember the name of it. It starts with a C, I think. But Kay Jones. Yeah, that's her name. Kay Jones from the Bakery Bears. But I ran out of this yarn. This was some of that, what was it? You know when they have those yarn boxes and stuff? I had gotten one box and it had like this silvery gray Polworth. That's what it was. It had like this silvery gray Polworth in there. And it was only like one ball. So I went as far as I could with it. And then I trimmed it with this. But yeah, so you can use your hand spun, not just for a whole project. You can use it for part of a project. Like, let's say you dyed up some hand spun. It's just not quite as soft as you want it to be. It's not soft like this alpaca I'm spinning right here. But you want to use it to make a hat. Well, you could use it for the body of the hat that's not going to touch your skin. And then you could take a commercial yarn to do the brim of the hat that's going to be touching your skin to make sure it's next to skin soft. Or you could use a different fiber like alpaca or cashmere or rambouillet or merino or blue face Leicester. You could use a softer wool that doesn't irritate your skin, or a hair fiber like alpaca. And you could do the hat band of the hat so that it's next to skin soft. You could take and spin up a wool to specifically use it for rugs. Truro sheep is traditionally used by the Navajo weavers for weaving rugs because they're not for you to wrap yourself up in and lay on and stuff like that. It's for their weavings were used as floor rugs as well as insulation to block the wind from coming through the gaps that might be by the windows or the walls of the house or whatever. As well as for decorative, for storytelling and things of that nature. There were multifunctional pieces of art made from a sheep's wool that is not a traditionally next to skin soft sheep's wool. So if you want to see some more, let me see. I was trying not to have to drag one of them big bags. I mean, because it's like a big storage. I got like some of those tall storage bags. It's like taller than my wheel is standing of hand spun. But I was trying not to have to drag out. Let me see. You'll hear a lot of crinkling with this one because a lot of these are in plastic bags. So this company was I don't know where they're out of, but I buy their fiber from my local yarn store here called Baba Sheep, and the company name is Fragulous Fibers. This one made me think of like Nightmare for Christmas. What is it? Nightmare? You know what I'm talking about? The Nightmare Christmas theme. And so I had bought 2 skeins of that, and I spun it up. Because I was usually when I buy a fiber, it's because something about that fiber speaks to me, or I'm just fascinated with the color play in that braid or roving. And I'm just like, oh, I wonder how that's going to look when you spin it up. And because I choose to 3-ply this is a sock weight yarn. So this is one thread. And because I 3-ply, it keeps the colors together. When you do a Navajo ply or chain ply, it keeps your colors together. Whereas you don't end up with that. A lot of people, they like to, what's called barber pole their yarns. I rarely ply like that because for me personally, I just do not like barber pole yarn. I prefer yarn at stripes. So this is some that this was some Shetland wool and alpaca roving, and it was from the Homestead Wool and Gift Farm, and this was something that she had already dyed, and I just spun it. Like I said, they're a sanctuary. They provide fiber animals with a forever home. Older animals who, like local farms, to keep them from going to the what they call it, glue factories and stuff like that. And so they take these animals in and they take care of them. And this was also some fiber from them. I try to order from them once a year. This was a CVM rodent, California variegated mutant, which is a dual-purpose animal. It's a meat sheep and it's a fiber sheep. And this is soft. And it's the natural color of a gray and white blend. So this is some Falkland that was sourced from the R.H. Lindsay Company, and my husband dyed it. And this is, I call it creamsicle because that's what it reminded me of when I was spinning it, of the orange creamsicles. It's really pretty and it's really soft. This will make a nice scarf, something with a pattern in it, not like cables or anything, but maybe like a lacy pattern, or it will make a cool hat as well. I try to label the yarn. Sometimes I forget, but I usually do a video of while I'm spinning, so I have to go back sometimes to look at my YouTube videos to see while I was spinning so that I can label it. Thank you, Wonder Woman. I have been spinning. We moved here in 2003, and I think I started spinning in 2006. But I've always, since I was a little girl, I've always been fascinated by spinning wheels and wool and sheep. My friend I met here, Fibercrone on Etsy. I mean on Ravelry, Fibercrone. She's actually local here to me in Virginia, and I wanted to make sure that I had bought one of those toy spindles that's made out of like those wooden toy wheels for the wooden cars little kids play with, and I had bought one of those. Oh, a lot of this is going to be going into, once my daughter gets here and helps me get pictures of stuff, it's going to be going into the buy it now section, and I'll be doing like spinning demos for you guys and stuff, but most of it's going to be going into the buy it now until I can figure this auction stuff out. That's where it'll be going, because like I said, for me it's the actual process of spinning that I enjoy. You grew up in Manassas? I'm from North Carolina, but I live here in Virginia. My husband's from New York, from Brooklyn. So we chose Virginia as a kind of almost midway point between my parents and his parents, because, our parents were older, getting older. And this one will be fun, too, as a shawl or a little kid sweater. And this is some Falkland. And these were dye soppers. So this was exhausted dye. And this is what we ended up with. It's really pretty. This would be a nice, and it's really soft. And then this one is like some purples. I think, what was this one? This is some Romney that my husband dyed. And it's like got some blues, some greens in it. And this would make like a nice scarf. And even though it's Romney, it's, to me, because I'm not one of them frou-frou people where stuff has to be ultra soft. Like, these would make some really nice fingerless gloves or socks. Now, if you're going to use them to make socks, if you're going to use hand-spun wool to make socks, then you need to get a nylon thread to hold with it so it lasts longer. But Romney is a hard-wearing fiber sheep fiber to begin with. So And if you take care of your handmade socks, they'll take care of you. These socks I have on, has mohair in it and stuff. I knit these socks for my husband 4 years ago. That's why they're so big on me, because I made them for him. But my feet were cold, so I grabbed them and put them on. So look at this one right here. This is some Falkland too that my husband and I dyed. And it was a remnant skein. So it has some alpaca in there, some brown alpaca in there. It has some of that gray Louet in there. It's just so many options that you can do with hand spun and hand dyed yarn. Like you could dye the braid. Like I could take this robin egg blue fiber, and I could take, like, this is some Walks Far Acre from one of their churro sheep. The sheep's name was Arwen, and it was a male, and he's a churro. So I could take this brown and this blue, and I could spin it separately, or I could just alternate, spinning a little bit of the brown, a little bit of the blue to make make it stripe, and then ply it, and end up with a blue and brown striped yarn. And I can also do pink, like blue and brown and pink and brown, blue, brown, and pink. Those colors look awesome together. So you have all these opportunities to mix and match, to add this color, add that color. Maybe I just want like a little bit of red to pop here and there in the fiber. So I have some red fiber, some merino, and I have some orange merino that's like a pumpkin orange. So maybe I want a little bit of red to show up in this brown. So I will actually hold a little bit of the red fiber while I'm spinning the brown, just so it just drafts just a little bit of that red onto that brown. So the opportunities to create a unique yarn when you're spinning your own yarn is endless. A lot of people will take this stuff and put it on a blending board. I have a drum cart out in the garage that sometimes I will make bats sometimes when I want to play around with it. But most of the time, the blending and stuff that I do it right here at my wheel. I'll say, oh, that would look good with some purple in it, or that would look good with this in it or that in it. And I'll just add some just to see what it's going to look like. And it goes into the bags of wonders that will soon be available to all of you guys at affordable prices. I'm not going to be trying to charge people an arm and a leg. I know hand spun yarn, for the most part, is very expensive. But I'm going to be, most of these skeins, unless it's something that's made with, like, you know, expensive fiber, like if I'm trying to get rid of some of my stuff with the expensive fibers, yeah, it's going to cost a little more. The 100% alpaca, the 100%, what's that stuff called? I got some. I can't think of the word right now. It'll come to me. But if I have like some rare breeds or stuff like camel, or there's a horse called a curly horse, that sometimes I get some of that fleece. If it's something that is unique and rare, yeah, it's gonna be a little bit more for me to sell that one. But the rest, regular Rambouillet, not Rambouillet, but Romney and Falkland and Blueface Leicester and just common wools that I just pick up anywhere, that people just gave me tons of it. I mean, let me see. Or that I took and had processed at the fiber mill. I had all my fleeces processed at the fiber mill a couple years ago. If I have any raw fleece, it's only like a small pound here and a pound there, samples of it. The last fleece I bought was from my friend who lives out in Ohio, Katie in Ohio. She has her own sheep, and she has some morts that I like. So every once in a while I'll buy a fleece from her, but it's not like, it's like a 2 pound, 3 pound fleece, easy to clean, easy to dry, easy to spin. I spin it from the lock. I lock spin it. Sayo, Ohio. That's where Katie's from. Camel, now baby camel, like camel down is really soft. But camel is a camelid. So some of camels have lots of guard hair. And so the older they get, the tougher their guard hairs are. So if you're going to get camel, you want to get camel down fiber to spin if you want something really, really soft. Yeah. But since it's a camel lid, why not just buy a packer and be done with it? It's going to be soft. Because llama fiber has guard hairs. So just get the alpaca. If you want a soft camelid fiber, just get the alpaca and be done with it. Yep, but you have to be careful who you get your camel fiber and camel yarn from, because there are some disreputable people out there. They'll be selling you what is typically thrown away in mulch by serious fiber husbandry people. You know, you have to be careful where you source your fiber and stuff from. If you have the, what is it called? I think it's called the Fiber Source book. I don't have it right here by me. But if you have that book, it has a good list of different breeds and where you can source their fibers at. Like specialty breeds and stuff like that. Because I know when I first started spinning, I wanted some, what is it called? Starts with a C. It's a springy, soft, hard-wearing fiber. And I can't think of the name, but it starts with a C. And so the wife was the one who had the fiber business. But she had just had a new baby, so the husband was trying to help her out. He didn't know one end of the freaking sheep from the other end of the sheep, basically. So he just went out into the barn, found a bag with fiber in it that was labeled that sheep's fiber, and just stuffed some in a box and mailed it out. He was getting the fiber that she had put aside to use in her garden, which was the second cuts, was the poo fiber that was covered in poo, or the yolk of the ram from breeding with the females. So he was getting her fiber that she had put aside to use as mulch in her garden, not the fiber that she was selling as the part that was up under because she coated her sheep. So he had gotten the wrong fiber and was sending it out to customers. But he didn't know. He was trying to help his wife. She just had a baby. He would call himself trying to help, you know. And so she ended up having more work than before by having to mail out, because that's a lot of shipping, you know what I'm saying? So she had to pay shipping again to ship the right fiber out to all the people who bought from her. And a lot of people understood, because we didn't, you know, she didn't want her business, her reputation on eBay being jacked up and everything because of her husband called himself trying to help her. You know, and some people, they just put, you know, wrote return to sender on the box and they mailed it back to her. The poo fiber. But yeah, but he didn't do it. You know, it wasn't him trying to get over or trying to cheat anybody. It was just he generally did not know that was his wife's business, you know, and he just felt frustrated because he kept seeing all this. You know, she forgot to close down her Etsy shop. I think she went to labor, you know, a little bit earlier than what she was expecting. And he kept getting those emails, and he was worried that her business, you know, like her business name was gonna go. You know, he thought he was helping. So, but you can understand that nobody was mad about it. Everybody understood when they found out what had happened, and she made it right with everyone. So, you know, but there are people who do stuff like that on purpose. They think people don't know, especially if you're a new spinner. A lot of new spinners don't know any better. Daggone, I almost had the word. Hold up. This gonna bug me for the rest of the night. I need to find out. Let me get my phone. Let me find out. It starts with a C. A, B, C. Columbia. There was some Columbia wool I was trying to get my hands on. Now, cashmere depends. You can have cashmere wool from goats. You can have cashmere wool from sheep. You can have cashmere wool from rabbits. And it's because of the softness, the micron count of that fiber is so soft that they call it cashmere. It's just some vicuna is like one of the finest fibers on earth. Vicuna fiber can only be gathered by hand by picking it up off the ground, off of bushes it's got caught off of. The camelids that are vicuna they are the ancestors of alpaca, but they're wild. They're like the closest I can say is their body type is they look more like deer than they do to me than camels. But vicuna fiber is ultra soft, ultra fine fiber. It is like the who's who of the fiber world. Pacuna, that's what I'm looking for. Pacuna are alpaca who have been bred back to an almost vicuna state. So their fiber is getting up there into that micron count of the vicuna. Vicuna are also a protected species. And if I remember right, only natives who live in that area of the Andes and stuff are the ones who are allowed to go out onto those lands and to gather that fiber, that vicuna fiber. It is against the law in those countries. They're protected species because they stress out very easily. And they're herd animals as well, just like alpaca, just like llama. They're herd animals. But yeah, that's something I would love to get my hands on. Is some pacuna and some vicuna. That was like your dream, like your bucket list of spinning. Those are on my bucket list of spinning. I've spun curly horse. I've spun woolly pig. I've spun dog hair, cat hair. And some very, very soft dog hair is what was her dogs? My friend Helen, I'm trying to remember what her dogs are. That is some super soft dog fiber. They're like the little fluffy little dogs. The little, what are they called? Maltipoos or something? They're very, 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 they're very, very flyaway fiber. And so I spun some of that for her with some alpaca fiber so that she could knit her, something for her to have to remember them by. But in the United States, it's against the law to sell. It's called Chingora. In the United States, it's against the law to sell domesticated pets fiber. So you can't sell, like you could pay me to spin the fiber for you. You could pay me to spin it for you. You could pay me for the spun yarn that I spun for you for it. But you can't sell that dog fiber and you can't sell that cat fiber. It is against the law in the United States to sell domesticated pet fiber. And by domesticated pet fiber, they're talking about cats and dogs. Now, rabbits don't count because rabbits are also food in the United States. But we're strictly talking about like cats and dogs. Chinchilla is a short fiber.
chinchilla is something that you would want to blend with another fiber with a longer staple, and then you would get that what's called a halo of the chinchilla fibers sticking out. If you were trying to just spin straight up chinchilla fiber, more power to you. That's something you would probably spin on a supported drop spindle because it's such a short fiber staple. Mohair depends on what kind of mohair. Mohair is considered to be the nylon of the fiber industry. If and most mohair that you use in the United States is from off of goats. So it's a longer fiber. It's what they make those Santa Claus beards from. Those super white Santa Claus silky white beards. Those are usually made from mohair. A lot of the doll hair with the is made from mohair. Yep, they have milk fiber that's made from like the proteins from the leftover milk processes has been spun into fiber, and I can tell you right now, cats know it. I had some for a sample just to spin some, and my cats could find it no matter where I put it. They would find it, and I would find them chewing on it. Yeah, bananas are a fibrous plant. And banana fiber's been around for a long time. A long time. Seaweed, you got seaweed fibers. You have, bamboo. You have silk. You have you got the tussar silk, and then you got the which is wild collected silk, and then you have the bred silkworm silk fibers from the ones that they breed in, hemp, hemp, linen, mint. They can make nettles. They can make fiber. They can make yarn from mint fibers, from fiber from the mint plants. It's just there's so many plants that were probably were used in ancient times to make fiber that we lost a lot of those processes as we became more industrialized and stuff. And mint fiber is starting to. They had some at Maryland Sheep and Wool this year, mint fiber for spinning and stuff. So there's another plant too. Oh, the hibiscus plant. I grew. It's called Jamaican sorrel. In some places and other places, just it's called hibiscus, and it had other places it has different names. But I grew some this year for my son's a big tea person, so I grew some. I don't know. That's why I've been trying to get some hold of it. They were telling my friends that I didn't go to Maryland Sheep and Wool this year, but my friends did, and somebody was telling me about it online that they had mint fiber made from mint plants. But this plant, the Jamaican sorrel plant, is also can be used to make fiber that can be spun. What's the other one? You got the cottonwood tree. My great aunt Rose was telling me that they used to gather the cottonwood because it would be floating. You know, it get floating and stick on stuff. They would gather that, and they used to spin that cottonwood fiber, playing with it. So it made me wonder if cottonwood tree fiber from the seed pods opening up, if that was gathered by the Native Americans and used in their weavings and stuff. I always wondered about that. Yeah, I believe they're lavender plant too. They have lavender plant fiber. What's the other one? Flax. Flax is the other one. Flax. There's a lot of tree barks that are fibrous and paper-like that can be made into spinning fibers. And do you know that there are, like, at the different grave sites and coliseums, and yeah, cornstalk fibers too. Yeah, that there a lot of these little beads that they find aren't buttons. They aren't hair beads for hair decoration and things. They're actually spindle beads. Like, they would go on a little stick to spin like the finest silks and stuff. It's amazing. And they found this out when they were like, oh, you know, like they find those tombs and stuff, and sometimes they would find like the little bead with on the spindle still intact with some yarn wrapped around the end of it or something. So I think that's amazing. And I have a drop spindle collection. I don't know if y'all can see. Y'all might be able to see some of them. Let's see. There we go. That's some of the drop spindles up there, but there's a bigger container on the other side of that bookcase with the rest of my drop spindles. I think there's like 70 of them. I have like 70 drop spindles. I did a video on my YouTube where we were counting them and I lost count. And so a viewer that was counting along with me, she put a message in there to let me know how many when I lost count. She was counting too. Yes, it is a lot to know. And I know that I hate spinning cotton because of the short staple length. I hate spinning bison, the kivet. I hate spinning anything with a short staple, a real short staple length. I do not like spinning it. The twist, it takes the twist so fast. You don't have as much time to get that fiber drafted out as you would something with a longer staple length. And so if it causing me any kind of stress, I don't want to spin it. I'm not going to waste my money buying it. The sample that I got to try it out, okay, I tried it out. I'm happy with that. I spun some of it. I don't need no more. You have to find what makes you happy in that craft. Like, you know, I know what I like spinning. I know which fibers I like spinning. Yes, there's some fibers out there in the world that I want to try still. But I know I don't like spinning short staple length fibers. So, you know, everything has its upside and its downside. And I also know that I'm not going to be spinning bulky yarn for nobody. I'm not going to be spinning worsted weight yarn for nobody. You know, I typically spin lace weight and sock weight yarns. That's what I typically spin. I'm not going to go above a 3-ply. When I chain ply / Navajo ply, I might do a 2-ply to give you a finer lace. But that's about it. That's how I spin. That's the kind of spinning that makes me happy. And there are people out there in the world who like that kind of yarn. No, I haven't spun flax because if I remember right, don't you have to keep like wetting your fingers and stuff when you're spinning flax? So I don't have time for that. Nope. I've spun newspaper before for a project my son did at school. And I spun some singles and dyed it with onions, like with red onions, with yellow onions, with white onions, and he had that as a project. I wonder if I still got it. So I'm going to show y'all from 2006, the first yarn that I made. And I'm going to show y'all the one I got left for the onion dyeing experiment my son did. So this is the first yarn that I made on a toy wheel drop spindle. It's overspun. It's worsted weight. And it looks like a cow. And this is it. My very first yarn. And this is some wool that the lady who sold me the drop spindle sent with it. This is my second yarn that I spun, which was my son's science experiment. And this is some blue face luster. And it was dyed with red onions, this one. And that's pretty much, after that, that was pretty much it. That was my spinning thing. And so my friend Teresa, the Fiberchrome, when I went to meet her, and I showed her this, and I said, am I doing this right? I said, this is my first one I did, and this is my second one I did. I said, am I doing it wrong? And she said, no, you're doing it perfectly fine. She said, you just did this in another lifetime. That's the only way I can explain how you went from that to that. So yeah. So it looks like a cow. It looks like I went out to Farmer Brown's field and stole one of the fiber off of one of his cows. That's what it, to me, that's what it looks like. I should find an amigurumi cow pattern and use this and crochet or knit a cow. But I like having this to show people that this is what your spinning can go from. That your spinning can go from this to this. If you just practice 15 minutes a day. And then you too could have 20 skeins of yarn a month of new yarn from your spinning. Because when I get home from work, I spin. Just to mellow out, zone out, you know, not think about work. I spin. So I'm gonna give y'all about 5 more minutes of me, and then that's gonna be it for me. I'm surprised I lasted this long, considering usually I spend half the night dealing with technical issues. So what I was just doing was, there was like a little, so like this is what is like called a second cut. That means that there was a little bit of fiber that's shorter than the staple. And so it makes like this little tuft. So basically just hold your fiber tightly and just pull, and it comes off. You can pull it right off. That way you won't have like that lump or bump in your yarn, unless you want that lump or bump in your yarn. If you want your yarn to have that texture, then by all means leave it in there. Oh, it's Taco Wednesday. Well, enjoy your meal. Thank you guys for coming by and hanging out with me. But you're a day late. It's supposed to be Taco Tuesdays. And whatever Wednesdays. Alright, y'all. Y'all take care. And hopefully my daughter will be home next week. And we'll have this thing set up. And the shop set up and everything. Write down your questions. Write down your questions for the next live. So, where is the in live button?